And we're back with Starbase summary for September 21st through the 24th. Starting off with a hot staging ring. Been some questions about where it might land. Luckily, this one's going to land on top of Booster 12. It's right there. So I had to do it. I had to start it off that way. Of course, the hot staging ring needs to go up there so that they can stack the ship on top. No spoilers for the rest of the video. If you look down at the bottom, we're looking at the bottom left-hand side of the OLM there, where they're removing the, it's sort of a protective plate from the disconnect, or I guess the quick disconnect area of the ship, getting it ready to be stacked. Rotating the crane around, I don't know if that's a water spot or the moon in the upper right. Let's go with the moon, because it seems to be moving in a very orbitally controlled fashion. You can see Ship 30 makes it over to the Chopsticks. Tiles are looking good on the ship. Look at that. You know, remember the days when the tiles looked like somebody, I don't know, loaded a tile shotgun and fired it at the ship, which was sort of randomly painted with glue? And now it actually looks like a system. Down there at the bottom, you can see Ship 30 coming off of the transport stand. We're always like hyper-focused at the bottom of the ship when we're waiting for a lift, because we, of course, want to do... Oh, a drone. We of course, want to do commentary streams covering this sort of stuff, but we don't want to start the stream too early. And then we're like, oh, it moved. And then we sit there and we have to fill 4 hours with random conversation while they put the ship back down and then go fix whatever problem there was and then pick it up again. You can see that drone moving around there. There you go. Look at that. The 3 sea level Raptors, the 3 vacuum Raptors, the bottom of the ship. Really, I mean, the ship really does look more like a vehicle and less like a prototype these days. The tiles just look nice. Now, some of them are still marked or have different sealant around the outside. There. A little bit of a rotation. A bit more of a rotation as soon as the Chopsticks clear. I guess after the Chopsticks clear. Well, after the Chopsticks clear. And you get a little bit of adjustment. They move it back and move it forth to get those little, they've got these little trapezoidal alignment pins on there. Here's a whole time-lapse. Mary put out a camera to catch the whole thing. A lot of people running around out there, it looks like. Catching the full stack in preparation for the next flight. There's the Ship Cutie connecting to Ship 30. Look at the adjustment. It's like a robotic arm with a bunch of connecting hoses and ports on it. And it's like back and forth, up and down to get all those ports to line up. Of course, they're all one big plate, right? So you get the alignment pins to line up, and then all the ports line up as well. It's not like they have to individually adjust each port. There's the dance floor, the cable-lifted working platform coming down, folding up like a taco. Is that the taco stand? There's a DSS, a detonation suppression system test. So back in the day, there were a lot of confusion between FireX and detonation system, and FireX is sort of a brand for components that are not this, I think, but they sort of went in around the same time. They have a similar, I don't even know if you want to say a similar function. They both have to do with changing the environment to stop conflagrations or explosions. That one is more about changing it. Look at the flaps going, by the way. Changing the environment to keep a mixture, like a close to stoichiometric mixture of air and explosive gases, because they become explosive if the mixture gets right. Normally they'll just burn. But if you mix it just right, I don't know if you've ever done the hydrogen balloon experiment in your physics classroom where if you don't put on your hearing protection, it makes your ears ring. Anyways, I have a bunch of footage of tests like that where I made my own hydrogen and tried different ratios of hydrogen to air or to oxygen and saw how that popped. Maybe one day that video will get made. Not today. Flap tests here typically happen Just making sure everything moves around. You see them on the ground. You see them up on the top of the stack. Interesting angle there, but you can see them as they move just a little bit. The reflection, like the light catches them a little bit differently, right? Ah, look down at the bottom of the ship now. The top of the booster right there near the ship QD arm. We get some grid fin wiggles, it looks like. Just checking out those mechanical attitude adjustment systems. I guess thrusters would be mechanical as well. The aerodynamic would be the right terminology to use, because they're just deflecting the airflow to give you a little bit of attitude control, like the rudder of a ship. But nothing like the rudder of a ship. Just same sort of principle. You have a fluid that you're moving through, and you deflect the fluid a little bit to get a little bit of control. So here we come up to September 23rd. And the spoiler here is that this does not end up being a wet dress rehearsal, like a full wet dress rehearsal. This ends up being a partial tanking test. So the question becomes, are they going to do a full wet dress rehearsal? And from my perspective, when is the stack really ready for flight? If you haven't done these final tests and you haven't confirmed that the ship is ready for flight, is it truly ready for flight? I think that one can be discussed down in the comments. But here you go. Look at the frost line rising up as the cryogenic fluids fill the bottom of the booster there and the bottom of the ship, freezing the South Texas humidity onto the side of the stainless steel. I'm not trying to start any arguments there. I do think that it's a valid question. Like, are you truly ready to fly if you haven't finished the testing which you use to confirm that your integrated system is ready to fly? They don't just do these tests for fun, because there's a little bit of risk to the vehicle when they do it. Something could go wrong. Never seen it with a full stack. Hopefully we never do see it with a full stack. But a lot of different time-lapse views here. Covered this live as well, if you want to go back and watch all the commentary where we talk about it. But check that out. You can see the ice melting now, sort of indicating the super cold liquid on the other side of that stainless steel has gone down. They've detanked it through. The lines are actually frosty. You see the lines on the quick disconnect, the plate that we saw in time-lapse connecting? You might have to scroll back to see those frosty lines there. But anyways, couple different views of some depress venting, I'm going to guess this is. When it gets sort of sped up and cut up, I missed a little bit of the context there. I love this. Like, look at it's like cascading out of it. See, it's not pressure coming out. It's not coming out at high velocity. It's sort of like done at that point, right? It looks like, at least. There is just a lot of vapors cascading around the pad. You can see this is from Mary, so this is a time lapse that Mary put out unattended for the test. Getting it from a little bit of a different angle here. And done with that test, we'll see if they do another full up wet dress rehearsal. Back to the Starfactory and office building. Looking complete all the way down the side of the Starfactory. Still haven't really seen anything on the connector, I guess you could say. The white part on the right-hand side there, those open beams. Now on the left-hand side, connecting the office building to the Starfactory. They're still sort of working internally. They haven't started to clad, if you would call it that, the outside of that little transitional area. It does look pretty cool. You'd never expect an office building, a building, not even just the office building, that looks like that to end up out here in Boca Chica Village. That was never anybody's plan until SpaceX came along. There's some barrel stiffeners. When we get those barrel sections that they stack to make the ships and the boosters, you can't just lift them up, because if you lift them up with, see, there's 4 lifting points on that, right? And if you were to just connect those 4 lifting points to a circle, you try it with a piece of paper. If you made a circle out of a piece of paper and you just picked it up by a couple points, it's going to want to bend and deflect, right? If you do actually try that with a piece of paper, send me a picture on social media or something. But they put these stiffeners in so that the stiffeners sort of, they have the 4 attachment points or however many, and then they level out the load to the actual ring to keep the ring circular so it's not pinching it or folding it or anything like that while they pick it up. There's some stands that they are unloading. That's labeled stand. I'm going to say that that probably goes on the bottom of the ship. Or the bottom of the ring. Barrel. Maybe not a ship. I mean, at that point, it wouldn't be a ship yet. It would just be parts of a ship, right? Anyways, sneaking a peek just past the edge of the Starfactory there. Into the high bay, you can see ship 31 in the background. Then over to ship 34, getting moved to a transport stand. A philosophical question. Does it get moved to the transport stand, or the transport stand get moved to it? We're full of philosophy this morning. Got some flaps there. Those look a little pointier. I like those guidance. See sort of the guidance funnel, the little pieces there? They're using some persuasion bars. I think I've heard this called persuasion bars before. Maybe not the exact same thing, but you get it. You surely don't want to be putting your fingers in there. Plus leverage. How does it work? Well, we know how leverage works. Leverage is pretty straightforward. We have equations and everything. Over to the parking garage. Interesting thing to observe here is that the cars get higher and higher in the parking garage. As they sort of finish off levels, they have more room, or I guess they allow the cars to go into higher floors. So we've been looking, every time we look at the parking garage, what level the cars are on. Working on the outside of it there. There's test tank B14.1, if you remember the slap tests that happened. You can see how the stringers there are already tapered. They're not painted black on that one, but they did have those tapers on it. I like this. SPMT Passing By. There was a conversation about SPMTs, and we were asking, I heard it on the stream, how many SPMTs they have, and I think the question is interesting because what's an SPMT, right? Like the SPMTs are modular. It's right there in the name, self-propelled modular transporters. You can take them apart and put them back together in different configurations and make them different lengths in different widths and all this sort of stuff. And you plug them together and they all sort of work together as a unit. But is an SPMT one SPMT building block, or is the SPMT assembled from multiple SPMT building blocks? And then how do you count that? Like, are you counting the number of assembled units that are moving as one, or do you count them as individual SPMT modules? I guess, is a self-propelled modular transporter, like, is the module actually called the same thing? Or is it called like an SPMT module? That's like an ATM machine, though, which is going to make somebody's eye twitch. I'm sure I'll hear about it in the comments. A bunch of awesome imagery of the full stack. Everybody loves a full stack out there because it looks like the future. What is this? Ring on a truck. It's a ring on a truck, folks. Overside load. Pull it in. Nothing gets by us. Over this way, this is the B4 aft section being hooked onto a crane. Notice this again. This is a different type of lifting device, but the whole idea is to spread out the load for this. You don't pick it up from one point. You don't pick it up from 2 points. You want other structure that takes that would be a compressive force there, that takes the compressive force as those lines try to come together. This is interesting. Okay, let me know what y'all think this is. Possible OLM part, it looks like a pass-through. That's what the inside of the current circular OLM at the first pad looks like. But this is very oddly shaped. Is that a 45-degree angle on the corner? Is that a mostly straight line? How many of these are going to fit together? That is an interesting question. If this is for the OLM, OLM2, OLM Boogaloo, or whatever, is it going to be a circular OLM? Is it going to be a square, a hexagon? I'm looking at these, like trying to figure out if that's a 45-degree angle, is it a 30-degree angle? Because the angle tells you how many sides you have, and then that tells you what your final shape will be. But anyways, folks, that is Starbase Summary. That's me, John Galloway. I'm back. Jack did a fantastic job last week, taking up the air, doing the commentary while I was out for my vacation. My birthday, actually, was last week. And I appreciate y'all watching. We'll be back for the next one. We'll see you nerds later.